It's now been proven that smoke-free workplace, restaurants, and bars are responsible for fewer hospitalizations and a decline in heart attacks. Amen.
It's about time, huh?
And now research suggests that the effects of secondhand smoke are nearly as large as in those who actively smoke.
Yeah, it's a big deal, passive smoking. And now that laws have been passed in a lot of states, Vicki, it's made a difference in the death rates from heart disease, both for heart attacks and from sudden cardiac death. There was a study done by the Mayo Clinic that was done in October of 2012. It was published in the Archives of Internal Medicine, and what it showed was that when you studied a population before legislation went through to actively stop smoking in public places, and afterwards, that there was a difference in the death rates. So what they did is they looked at 18 months prior to the passage of the law, and then 18 months after the passage of the law, and the death rates dropped by a substantial percentage.
You know, now that we know this, I mean, just think back to the past before we knew this, you know, and mothers smoking with babies and in the car and all that. And,
I remember
and it's
growing
as
up
bad
with
as actively smoking.
Yeah, it's shocking but true.
And then it gives people respiratory diseases besides the heart problems.
The number of problems we see from smoking,
and
just they're innumerable. I mean, the cost per year is in the range of $300 to $400 billion a year in medical costs because of smoking.
Well, we need to spread this law further, you know. What about casinos? I remember one time we were on a trip, and we don't gamble, and we went to a casino just to go to the restaurant and there to get something to eat.
Right.
And it was just, there was so much smoke you could hardly even breathe.
Yeah, well, it was that way when I grew up. I know that everybody smoked in my family. And my parents and my uncles would get together, and grandparents would get together, and they'd play pinochle. And you could even see one end of the room to the other end of the room, and I used to sit there and I was getting high just like they were.
It was the same thing. It used to be in college parties, you know, because everybody smoked. It was the end thing, and we thought we were all sophisticated and everything. And I remember when that law first came into effect about secondhand smoke, that a lot of people that smoked got really angry.
Right.
And of course, the people that were saying that the secondhand smoke was dangerous were angry at the people that smoked. And so now we have, you know, proof, and we've got some legislation anyway.
Well, I mean, look at what's happening. Basically, we're seeing a 33% less number of heart attacks and about a 17% less number of sudden cardiac deaths. But when you actually look at the numbers, they are exaggerated in most articles. I think most scientific journal articles are trying to look at percentages rather than actual numbers. And to be fair, which we should do, the death rate drops from 150 to 100 per 100,000 people for heart attacks, and from 110 to 90 per 100,000 for people who had sudden cardiac death. That means that there were about 1.5 cardiac deaths per 1,000 people, and before this legislation was passed, and only 1 per 1,000. Now that is a lot less impressive, but still significant. And when you look at sudden cardiac deaths, it dropped from 1.1 per 1,000 to 0.9 per 1,000. Not big numbers until you magnify them by millions, and then you start to see the effect take hold.
Well, you know, this needs to spread also with, you know, like multi-unit housing and cars, when people rent cars and hotel rooms. I think that they're getting more and more like that. But also the workers need to be protected, like the maid service and all those.
Well, I think we have an awareness now in this country that smoking is bad for you, that secondhand smoke is bad for you. And look at the article that was published in Circulation just this last month, too. And they reviewed 45 studies, of which 33 had smoke-free laws, and they found that there were 15% fewer heart attacks and stroke hospitalizations, and 24% fewer hospitalizations for pulmonary conditions.
You know, one of the things that I'd really like to see them stop doing is smoking in movies. I don't think that, you know, they don't do it as much now as what they used to.
That's really true.
And if you're on a movie set in the union, you get smoke pay. If there's smoke, they pay you extra.
Well, that's right. And you know who should pay that? It's the tobacco companies.
But some of these movies I've seen where they just chain smoke, it's just ridiculous how
Well,
much they do it.
40 years ago, you'd walk a mile for a camel. And today, we know that smoking is really hazardous to your health, and so is secondhand smoke. So your best bet is support your legislature to vote for more non-smoking